I'm about 2 hours outside Las Vegas in the middle of the Mojave Desert, literally the middle. That is a dried lake bed behind me. And I'm with a car that should be very much out of its element. It is the Honda HR-V, second generation now. The first generation was based on the tiny little Honda Fit. Well, that car is no longer made, so Honda had to go to the old reliable Civic. Now, I will say the Honda Civic is a car I very much like, but I'm a taller guy and it's kind of tough to fit in the Civic. I hit my head when I go in and I feel like I'm sitting on the ground. So I thought this will be perfect. It's basically a Civic. It should drive like one and it's a little bit bigger. In fact, it got so much bigger. This is almost the same size as the next level up, the Honda CR-V, but it's a lot cheaper, like $5,000 cheaper. So I drove it through the city and I was like, I'm not really feeling this car. I got to give it one more chance. So I took it out on some rougher terrain. It is the all-wheel drive model. I've put it through its paces and I've done a complete 180 on this car. I'm going to give you a look around and I'll tell you why. If it seems cars are all starting to look the same, you're not crazy. It is the case, but computers and aerodynamics can only do so much to differentiate these. I get vibes of, I guess, the Ford Escape, although this pulls it off better on the front. And then you come to the side, and I'm getting, I don't know, maybe Porsche Macan. But if, like, China tried to do a Porsche Macan, which they probably have, even towards the back, but the back gets a little lumpy. But from the outside, it does not look like a very big car. And actually, it's pretty low. Now, when I go to the inside, you're going to see how spacious it really is. It makes the biggest use of this small amount of space. I was pleasantly surprised. A couple things to note. I did say earlier this is the all-wheel drive version. It's about the only option on this one. This is a base LX model, but it does come standard with LED taillights. You get real wheels, no hubcaps. These are 17s and they don't look too bad. One thing I will note that I missed for an option, one-touch door handles. Even the driver's side, there's not one-touch door handles, so you gotta actually hit the button on your key fob to get in. But it does have HID headlamps. Thankfully, so many cars are still sticking with the halogens in this price point, but Honda did the HIDs. It is missing fog lights, but the higher models would get them right there. Overall, I think it's a vast improvement over the first gen HR-V. One thing I should note too, you can probably see it with the sun reflecting here, is this dent. Well, I just tried to take a cool YouTube thumb and I sat on it. Now, I know I've gained a little bit of weight, but I don't think I've gained that much weight. So be careful if you plan on sitting on your car because that hood metal is very thin. I'm just hoping that the rental car company does not see that when I bring it back. Let's see what powers this HR-V under the hood, which is weirdly heavy for it denting so easily. Here we have a 2-liter dual overhead cam, variable valve timing, no turbo, no superchargers, none of that stuff. That's just more stuff that can break. 158 horsepower, 138 pound-feet of torque. It gets you 0 to 60 in under 10 seconds if you're lucky. Now, if Honda would have added 30 horsepower to this, I think it would have been a game changer, but this serves as adequate. This is the base model, so no power liftgate here, but not a huge deal. See how dusty this thing is already. In the back, I got it fully loaded up for the road trip, and you don't get a whole lot. I got like 2 bags, a couple other bags. These could double as basically suitcases, so you could probably get 3 or 4 carry-on bags and maybe a couple other things. Not an overwhelming amount of space, but I'm gonna show you why that is right now. This is the reason why cargo is so limited in the back, because Honda moved this back seat so far back. There is a ton of room. I'm 6'3", and this front passenger seat is all the way back. I'm telling you, this is as far back as it can go. I still have room for my knees. It's pretty incredible, but you're gonna lose cargo space. As you can see, I had to put a couple bags in the back seat, which in a normal crossover probably would have fit in the back, but I'm gonna put that front passenger seat to a normal spot. So I now have that front passenger seat at like a normal spot, kind of right in the middle. I'm gonna show you how much room I have here. Still plenty of room. Look at all this space. It's crazy. So you also get some storage pockets here, a little storage thing here, but notably missing is power outlets. This is the base model. Maybe the higher models have it, but there's no power outlets for the passengers, no frills at all. So if you do have to sit next to extra luggage, you're not really missing out on anything because there's not even a center armrest here. So if you're not carrying passengers, thankfully, you can put these back seats down. This is a 60-40 split. Folds nice and flat. Door panels, pretty standard fare for this class. Hard plastics, a little piece of soft here, but then it's right back to the hard. One thing I should note is the placement of this center seat belt. It's in the ceiling. I don't know why, because most cars will run it backwards and put it in the floor so it doesn't block any visibility, which this actually does. I'm gonna give you a look at the rear view mirror here so you can have an idea of what I'm talking about. Trying to angle this properly so you can see, but you have each headrest here, and then right here is that seat belt. So it's not a big deal, but it definitely does block a little bit of your visibility. It's just another thing on this car that I think could be a tiny bit safer, and Honda just kind of skipped a step. Maybe it was cheaper to run it through the ceiling, or there's some engineering reason that I'm not sure of. I think they should have ran that through the floor. And door materials are the same as in the back. Hard plastic. But you got a little piece of soft right there. I should also mention that this ledge up here, I had a problem with the Nissan Rogue Sport I recently drove where my arm would just slide right off. This one's really good. It keeps the nice ledge. If you're a person that likes to put your arm up top while you drive, this one's really good. And just a word of warning, if you come to the Mojave Desert, there's flies everywhere. I don't know if you're seeing them in the video, but the car is infested with them now. So added bonus for me. But let's go around here. Power windows, power mirrors, power locks, standard fare. The outside mirrors are not power folding. You do have to still do that by hand. You get a little bit of storage down here. This is kind of a pseudo cup holder and a little pocket down here. Your traction control button. And I should note this too, Honda engineering. Looks like this might have came off or had some fitment issues. So much so that you see the rental car fix, either Hertz or a customer that didn't want to get busted fixed it with a zip tie. So I guess it's not super noticeable, at least to the rental car people, because they barely even look at the cars anymore. On the steering wheel is pretty comfortable. It's not leather wrapped or anything, but that's no big deal. You get all the buttons you would expect. Voice commands, volume, skip track. You do have all the driving aids on here, which should be expected. Radar cruise control, lane keep assist. I'm going to show you something a little odd about the Honda lane keep assist in a minute, and your radar cruise following distance right there. This is one thing I wanted to note on the driving aids. Overall, I like them. They are pretty good. It's just a little bit odd the way that they do the lane keep assist. Now I'm in radar cruise control right now. Lane keep assist is on. Now if I veer just to the edge of the lane, watch the steering wheel. It'll actually physically shake the wheel. Now, most of the time I get a buzz or something like that. This physically shakes the wheel. Watch it again. It's almost like you have a flat tire. You're like, whoa, what happened there? Kind of the first few times I was like, what's going on? Lights, auto headlamps. I said they are HIDs, which is nice. And your windshield wipers, which this car actually came with no windshield washer fluid, which sucks. You don't realize how much you need that until it's gone. And these ones shoot it directly out of the wipers. It's very interesting. Maybe I should do it right now just so you can see it. They don't like shoot on the glass. They just come out of the wiper. It's just a kind of a little bit different way of doing things. This design, like I said, it's cool. I just wish they did some color to kind of offset it. These are actually the vents inside here too. So these will close all the way if you do them all the way here. You hear that click? That actually shuts the entire vent off. It's a pretty neat little system. Got your hazard lights here. Your climate control, it is not dual zone, but it's not a big deal. Everyone can have the same temperature. If you really want to fight over it, you can do so. It's kind of half controlled here. You can see the dial, and up above as well. You can see the fan speed, the different modes. It'll switch between there and down here as well. I like that it's still separate from the screen, but it's also integrated at the same time. Speaking of the screen, it's actually pretty good. This is a 7-inch one. It's not the biggest. They do have a 9-inch screen as well, but it has everything you need. CarPlay, all that other type of stuff. It's very fast. It works well. I really haven't had any problems with it. I think one time it got a little bit caught up, but you know, that's going to happen on even the best of cars. Give you a look at the camera here. I squeezed into a tight spot, as you can see, using this, and there is no backup beepers or sensors of any kind. That is an option, but this one does not come with it. There's only one single rear camera in the back, and I'm gonna be honest, it's pretty pixelated. It's not the best picture. Now I know I'm recording from a camera onto a screen, so it's gonna look even worse for you, but trust me, it's not that great. This is the standard view. You do get 3 different views. This one's nice. It's a wide angle view, so you can see a wider portion, especially handy if you're backing out of like a busy intersection, because this car does not come with cross traffic alert, so that helps a lot. So just so you can see the difference again, this is the wide angle and that's the standard angle, quite a bit different. And you do get an above one too, so you can see how close I actually got to the car. And don't worry, I didn't hit it. Off to the center, this is one pet peeve I have. There's a USB-A slot here, and that's it for down in the middle. I actually usually have this little gadget with me for the 12-volt cigarette lighter, so I can plug some extra accessories in. And it's not getting any use because there is no 12-volt that I can find. They actually eliminated it from the whole car, which is very interesting. And I didn't notice it earlier because I was kind of baffled by the lack of a 12-volt up front, but there is one in the back. So if you're traveling with like one of those coolers or some other kind of accessory in the trunk, you actually do have a 12-volt here, but this is the only one that I've found in the car. A couple of cup holders up front, and it is mated unfortunately to a CVT transmission, but that's pretty common today. But at least it's still on a standard column shift and not the weird thing I had in the Honda Accord where there was like buttons in different spots and it just looked awkward. Just stick to the column shift. It works just fine. Drive modes, there's no sport mode. I was excited. I was like, maybe this thing will actually have some guts. So there's just 2 different modes. There's normal, 3 modes. There's normal, which it is in right now. And then you have economy mode to save a little bit of gas, and snow mode. Now I'm probably not gonna run into any snow here in the desert, but it's there if you need it. It might also work on the sand. We could find out, I guess. Next up, you have your hill descent control, automatic parking brake. Listen to this. This one's really loud. I'm not sure if that came through, but it's crazy loud. Then you got your brake hold and a storage bin here. You'll see my sunglasses in there. That's because Honda did not put a sunglass holder up top. I usually really like those, but nowhere to be found on here. And underneath that center little area is one more USB-A slot. There's no USB-C on this car. Now with the new iPhone and all the Android phones using USB-C, it's interesting that in 2024 they did not put that on this model. But speaking of your phone, I've been putting mine under here. It's kind of like a nice grippy area. It's out of the way. You're not actually looking at your phone because you got everything you can manage on CarPlay anyways. So it's close by, but it's not distracting. And while I'm up here, you can see the mirrors. Now this is a taller crossover, but they're using like a small car mirror. I think the mirror needs to be a couple inches taller. It's wide enough where you can see things, but you really can't even see anywhere near even the roof line. It just feels small when you're on the road. I would like to see a little bit more in my mirror, especially considering that this one does not come with the blind spot monitor, which is very interesting because Honda was like the first one to come out with that crazy blind spot camera system that never took off. So you think that would be on the top of their minds to have blind spot safety, but it's not as a feature on the base model of the HR-V. So all that stuff in the interior is pretty minor that I had problems with, but this is major. The seats. Now they look pretty good. Once again, kind of bland, all the same color, not much of a pattern on it, but they are so hard. These seats are like rocks. They're awful. These are easily the worst. This is so hard. These are the worst seats I have had in any car in recent memory. For this reason alone, I would not buy this car. Now, the leather seats might be better. As far as I know, there's just these base cloth and the leather seats, but I have a suspicion that they're the exact same seats. I'm not 100% sure, but seriously, test drive this car for a nice long drive. I have a lot of back issues, and this is a deal breaker for me. I feel like it would be for a lot of other people too. I looked online and there's so many complaints about how terribly designed these seats are. There's no lumbar support, just the backs go up and down and forward and back, and that's all you get. This car's got all-wheel drive, so what do you say we take it down a stretch that no soccer mom is gonna take it and see what it can do? Now, if you go far enough along this road, there's actually a cool little desert oasis, like a real one. It's not a mirage. I'll show you that at the end of this. But in the meantime, this is a fun little road. Check it out. Now, these are sharper corners than you're gonna find anywhere, except maybe that weird zigzaggy street in San Francisco. One thing you're gonna notice is how loud the engine is. I have to yell over it. It's because Honda decided that insulation wasn't important. I feel like there's none in this car. There's none from the road. You hear the tire noise. These are not overly aggressive tires. This is a rockier road, I'll give you that. But even on a smooth freeway, the tire noise is loud, and you hammer down on that little 2-liter and it does this. It moans and groans and eventually starts going. But I will say the steering is nice and tight. It's very reminiscent of that Nissan Rogue Sport that I drove. It's almost the exact same ride. It's almost like that was the benchmark, and unfortunately Nissan doesn't make that car anymore. I really like that thing. Here's where the all-wheel drive is going to come in handy. No more pavement. But I'm not worried about it. This Honda is handling it just fine. There's some bigger rocks in here. There are some deep ravines. I would not take it down there, but if you got a chance to get out, like down there, you're probably not going to end up so well. And the car's gray, so if it gets a dent or a chip, you're probably not even going to notice it. Right? But that's about the most off-roading that this HRV is ever going to see. Now, I'm very impressed with the ride, though, even just on that little stretch. Because I had it in the city, and I was like, it's just all right. But now after doing that, it's like, why get a little sedan with low ground clearance and you got to worry about it every time you want to go on a hike or just a little gravel road when you could have this for the exact same price? This is $25,000. This is a freaking bargain. I was thinking of this as like a $30,000 car, which it can get up to with options, but you don't need all that stuff. It has all the safety features you want. The really important stuff is here, the basics. My one problem is those really hard seats. If the seats were comfortable, I would say run out and buy this car today. I just want to give you a little peek at this desert oasis that is up here. It's actually not accessible to drive by, unfortunately, but maybe we can get a little glimpse of it here when I go around. It's called Soda Springs. It's actually part of the Cal State University system, so you can't really go much further than this. You can actually walk around the little trail that's over there, but it's really cool. You wouldn't expect this when you're like 10 miles off the freeway in the middle of the desert. There's palm trees all around it, and there is a little tiny man-made pond, but when you're in the middle of the Mojave Desert, you'll take whatever water you can get. So while I'm glad that Honda continues to make cars like the Civic and the Accord, while other manufacturers have just straight up ditched their sedans, I think this is the practical choice. I mean, we have the Civic Type R, which is awesome, and you're never gonna get an HRV Type R. So we need people to buy the regular, normal Civic, so Honda continues to make the cool stuff. But if I was the buyer and the price was relatively the same, which this is, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 more, I'm gonna go with the HRV, maybe just for my lifestyle, because I want a little bit of adventure. I'm not going straight up off-roading, but I would like that ground clearance. And especially where I live, there's a lot of hills and mountains, and you get really steep driveways, and I just cringe every time the car scrapes the bottom. I've been driving this thing for over a week now. It has not scraped once. I haven't even thought about it. And one other area that the HRV wins in is the back seat. I showed you, it's huge. You can get 4 adults in here extremely comfortably. Now, sure, you do lose a little bit of trunk space, but it's still a lot more than you would get in the Civic regardless. And if you're taller like me, there's so much room. There's like, must be 6 inches above my head. I don't feel cramped at all. And you park this next to like a regular SUV, like my everyday driver CX-5, it's way shorter, but I don't believe it because I feel so much more spread out and like open in here, even compared to my Mazda. It's pretty wild. Now, the Honda cars, I hit my head when I go in and I just feel cramped. So if you're a little bit bigger and you have passengers, the HRV is the way to go. A huge disadvantage, I can't stress it enough, are these seats. They are ultimately terrible. Now, I've had a couple back surgeries and I've had a lot of back issues, and I don't want you to have the same problem because it sucks. So these seats might work for some people. They do not work for me at all. I actually wanted to bring a pillow with just to sit on it, and I totally forgot it, and I'm starting to regret it right now because my back is hurting. I've been in the car for close to 5 hours on this trip, and I know I'm gonna pay for it in the morning, so that is huge. Take it for a nice long test drive. Maybe ask the dealer if you can take it home for a night. Sometimes they let you do that. You'll be able to learn so much more about the car, and if you do actually fit. If you do have an HRV, I want to hear about your experience, because this one's got like 35,000 miles on it now, actually over 36, so it's just out of warranty, but it's held up surprisingly well, especially compared to the Ford Escape I drove with this much miles that Lewis just beat. So if you're comparing Honda and Ford quality, Honda takes it all the way, minus that weird little trim piece that fell off over there. I think that was someone doing some damage to it. Other than that, this car has held up amazingly well. I don't like that thin metal, and it kind of reminds me that I might have to lose a couple pounds on that dent that I made in the hood. Whoops. I hope you enjoyed the video. Follow us everywhere. It's at Petroelectric. Leave your comments down below, especially if you have an HRV. I want to hear from you. I will talk to you on the next video.